But it's, for me, it's the most important event of this conference, almost, after the Vice President, of course. Yes, and thanks very much for coming. You know, the Munich Security Conference claims to be the most important conference on global security issues, and we try to actually meet these expectations, and therefore we put conflicts on the agenda that are not on the agenda of a normal European. And Haiti is such a conflict. When you look at the figures, when you look at the history of it, when you look at possible consequences, everything, it has to be on the international agenda. And it had been on the international agenda when I was ambassador to the United Nations, and at the time Germany was together there with the Dominican Republic. As you know, Dominican Republic is the second half of this island, and my friend Jose Singer, who was with me 2 years in the Security Council, wasn't easy always, but with Jose, he always pestered me and said, we have to put it on the agenda, and here we are. And we decided in 45 minutes we're going to solve the problem. So we have Jose Singer, comes from Dominican Republic, former special envoy of the Dominican Republic to the UN Security Council, having dealt with this issue for a long time. We have the Kenyan National Security Advisor, Monica Juma. I really appreciate that you have come, because actually you should be with your president at the summit of the African Union, but it was for the Bavarian charm that you said you come here. We have Elizabeth Spear, the Assistant Secretary General for Peacebuilding support at the UN. We have Tirana Hassan, the Executive Director of Human Rights Watch. And we have Phil Gordon, who is now in his free time, because until, I don't know how much, an hour ago or 2 hours ago, he was a modern-day slave, as we were together under Obama and Merkel administration. He is the National Security Advisor for Vice President Kamala Harris, but now he is here in his capacity of a very experienced diplomat for many, many years, and we have been friends also for going back a long time. Thank you all for being here. So we have 45 minutes. Everybody is allowed to speak 3 minutes. Jose, only 1.5 minutes, because in Latin America, 1.5 minutes means 5 minutes. So 1.5 minutes for Jose. Can you put us, you know, and we'll be more serious than I've been so far. Can you put us in the middle of the problem, and then we go around?
Thank you, Christoph, for hosting this. I'm very passionate about Haiti, so I'm going to read out my thoughts, because if not, I'm going to take, as Christoph said, too much time. Haiti is living the biggest humanitarian crisis ever in our region. So we got to start in that context. Haiti is a forgotten conflict in not only Latin America, but in the world. Since we entered the Dominican Republic in 2019, the Dominican Republic has been taking the lead in every multilateral venue to keep this issue alive. The efforts in the last 3 years, though, have been fivefold. In the UN, there's a saying, used a lot by the African Union, neighbors know best. We warned the Security Council in 2019 when a resolution to lower the mission of Haiti that it would be a disaster. The only vote against it, the other resolution, was the Dominican Republic, so here we are. So now, once again, we want to warn the international community that funds for the Kenyan troop deployment are not obtained now to help the Haitian police control the gang problems. You will see an all-out civil war with thousands of lives lost. That's a prediction that we hope it doesn't happen, and that Kenya comes in. At this moment in Haiti's conflict, we suggest a very low bar to be set, and that is reestablish security by controlling the gangs. Let's get there first, and then. Once this is achieved, the UN, with all its tools, should be available at the request of the Haitians to reestablish some sense of institutions, and then, only then, hold presidential elections. This part should be Haitian-owned, but they need full involvement from their Haitian diaspora, their civil society, and business leaders. We must recognize the tireless effort of the United States helping Haiti out of this conflict, and also the leadership role that Kenya has taken in the African Union, stepping up to help Haiti. It is my understanding, and Monica can help us clearing this point, that you must understand that the mission of Kenya will be a no-go till the funds for the troops deployments and equipment are available. I can't blame them. We want to warn the international community that Haitian gangs perform many activities that could be considered acts of terrorism to its own people. So we are just very few steps away from these gangs to represent a threat in other countries in the region. Last, this conflict represents a direct threat to the Dominican Republic, which is already paying a high price for illegal immigrations from Haiti. Since the Dominican Republic, as an example, offers free health care to all its citizens, it also does to illegal immigrants at an incredible cost that is costing us 14% of our budget, which equals like $200 million a year that we're spending to take care of illegal immigrants in the Dominican Republic. Haitian women cross the border illegally to give birth, and we must continue to give them free hospital assistance. But one of the problems we're having, those hospitals next to the frontier, there are so many beds, so they're full of Haitian women, so Dominican women have to go to other displaces and go to other problems. It is a very dire situation. I can go on, but I want to give chance to questions and stuff like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I give the floor to Monica for her to tell us how Kenya, from another country, is ready to engage, maybe, Tirana, you can complete the picture, which is pretty bleak, and I think you will unfortunately confirm that.
Am I on now?
No.
Neither of them are on?
Yes, you're
We're
on.
on. Thanks, Christophe. The situation in Haiti, I think everybody is in this room because we realize, how dire the situation is. From Human Rights Watch's research, what we have been documenting now, particularly in Port-au-Prince and the neighborhoods within Cité Soleil, is a reality for Haitian residents of these neighborhoods, which they describe as a living hell. The violence between criminal gangs is not only leading to massive amounts of death of people just trying to go along their daily business, people trying to go out and eke out a living, people who are trying to send their children to school get caught in the crossfire between the skirmishes between the gangs. We have evidence of people being rounded, men in particular, being rounded up, shot, killed. In any sort of incursion of violence that we see, there are consistent and systematic reports of sexual violence against women and girls. And out of the cases that we have seen and we have documented, we have not yet seen one of the victims that we spoke to who said that they had faith or the ability to be able to report the crimes that were committed against them, including the survivors of sexual violence. Part of that is that there just are no police present in these areas. So, the need for the multinational security support mission is without a doubt something that needs to move forward. And I think the leadership that has been shown from the Security Council, from Kenya, from the CARICOM states, to make this a reality should be applauded. But we need to think beyond just the boots on the ground, because for this to succeed, it has to be a holistic response. It has to be able to speak to, or actually respond to, both the humanitarian and human rights crisis, because part of what gives oxygen to these criminal groups is the fact that they are able to control and feed off recruitments because people have so little. So the gangs are able to continually recruit young men into their gangs because there aren't any other options. We see the need, if we really want to respond to the need of Haitian people, it's not just security that will make a difference. It's also about ensuring that we're putting in the foundations for access to goods and services once there is some sort of level of stability where residents can move through. So, I think that I agree entirely that this will only succeed, obviously, if there is the logistical and financial support that needs to happen to actually allow the mission to do its role, to have this holistic approach. But also I want to maybe just highlight one key point that doesn't come up often enough, is that Haiti has a very checkered history with international intervention, and it is seen with a deal of skepticism, I think, from some people some Haitian citizens, regardless of how much they know it's needed. So there is a way forward, though. We don't just have to accept this. By ensuring that there is proper human rights vetting of troops, the same, both the troops that, police, the police who will be deployed from other states, but also the police who are taking part as part of the Haitian police force. There are abusive elements in the Haitian police force who have actually been working with or enabling, rather, parts of these criminal groups. And so ensuring that there is proper vetting and that these elements of the security services of the police are not part of that is going to be key in ensuring that we have a credible force that doesn't do harm. And I think the last thing I would say is that we learned from different sort of international security operations and peacekeeping operations that after years of mistakes in many places, it matters that you involve the local community. So when we talk about the sort of investment that is required, we need to be thinking about how do we engage local civil society, the local community, which is very traumatized, in setting up some sort of systems that they are able to report any sorts of concerns and potential abuses that they may have about the force, so that we can think about engaging early and often, if anything was to go awry, to maintain the credibility and success of the force.
Tiana, thank you very much for presenting this rich menu. I'm a bit scared, Monica, that after having heard that, you say you're no longer ready to intervene there. You have the floor.
No, thank you very much, Christophe, and thanks those who have spoken before me. I think in October, when Resolution 2699 was passed, it happened at a time when we believed you would not gain unanimity in the Security Council. And I think this was a powerful signal to say that everybody agreed that there was need for collective action on Haiti. So that, for us, was a starting point. My president had already spoken about this in relation to our foreign policy in terms of Pan-Africanism, but also in view of our thrust for peace support operations. This will be probably our 56th mission since independence, so we've been to everywhere, including East Timor. So there is a great sense of comfort in terms, and it's not coming out of, we are not being naive. And I think this is important because sometimes you get asked, why did Kenya put itself up there? We believe that this is a task and a responsibility for every member of the United Nations. And so this is why we are there. We believe that any country or people that believe in the democratic values owe a historical debt to Haiti. So we believe that there is a duty of care here and a responsibility as members of the international community. So in following that resolution, we went to work. And we've had a lot of work that has been taken in order to prepare and in cognizance of the history that has been elaborated here and the scale of the problem. To understand it, of course, Haiti is geographically far apart from ourselves. That does not mean that we do not share both values, both aspirations for dignified lives with the Haitian people. And so we have been working hard. We've been engaging with Haiti on a very constant basis. We have had engagement with CARICOM countries. We've had missions both ways into the region. We've been working closely with several other countries, with the US, with Canada. We've been engaging with some European nations. And we've set up a number of interagency teams across all these countries to try and do as much as possible preparation in order that we do not fall into the mistakes of the past and to draw on the lessons of the experiences of the past. So far, as a way of reporting, a number of base documents have already been engaged. The teams have just broken up after a planning conference in DC, where 17 countries were represented, to really look at the concepts of operation, the rules of engagement, accountability documents, and probable status of forces agreement, so that we can have a common foundation where we are going to launch this operation. We believe that there are a number of success factors for this operation. Amongst them, really translating that global solidarity into concrete support is the first one of them. We have clarity in terms of the required equipment, the required competencies, and how this should interact. And we've been in conversation. So my message in this room today is to really push for somewhat the translation of that solidarity expressed into concrete support for the mission. I think we have a good understanding of the various strands of this holistic mission. You know, it cannot just be boots on the ground. There is a place for the political process led by the EPG. There is a place for the BINU mission. There is a place for a range of humanitarian actors that are on the ground and whom we are interacting on a constant basis to read the situation, especially after the 7th. We are also looking at that so that we do not put even the troops in harm's way. The belief is that we have a good sense of the theater. We believe strongly that this is doable, but time is of essence, Christophe. Time is of essence. Today we are sitting on the 4th month since October 2. So I think we can prepare and we can continue preparing, but I think it's very important that deployment happens soon. And this is why it is absolutely essential that these pledges that are being made are translated into that support. We see an opportunity in the coming G20 where Secretary Blinken, I think, will be co-chairing a resource mobilization meeting. But I think there needs to be a momentum across the world. I think it would be a very good help if 1 or 2 countries gave the right signal, really, by making a firm commitment. And so we look forward to making our contribution. This is a global consensus around Haiti, and I think we need to take that to the next step. I thank you, Christophe.
Phil, before I give you the floor, let me turn to the UN. I mean, the UN has, to say it nicely, a mixed record in Haiti. Now, seeing this new approach with an African country in the lead, more intergovernmental, but still you need, as Tirana said, you need a lot of elements to look at. You are also head of the Peacebuilding Fund, or the Peacebuilding, you're in charge of peacebuilding support. How does this look from the UN also on the experience you have made in the past?
No, great. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I want to thank you and the Munich Security Conference for putting the spotlight on Haiti. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it at the outset. I mean, this is a situation that is not new to the international community. But with all of the other conflicts raging across the world, and some very big ones, including one on this continent, it's so easy to sort of sweep Haiti under the rug, and we frankly cannot afford this, and the Haitians cannot afford this. So it is very important that we have fora like this one to bring the spotlight back to Haiti, first and foremost. Secondly, I would like to pick up on what a few of my predecessors who had the word were saying, and that is that, again, we have been, as the international community, in and around Haiti for an awful long time, and it has, including the United Nations, and it has not always been felicitous, and there, of course, I'm being very UN, a little bit euphemistic. And one of the things we need to do, which was, again, mentioned by others, is that we really have to learn from the past, and we have to look at what it was we did in the past and how we did it, and what didn't work, and then how to do things differently. I think that's absolutely critical. Number three, I want to echo the request or the appeal that was just made for support to this mission, to the MSS. It is seen as absolutely critical. I also agree that time is of the essence. There's a lot of things that still need to be done, to be planned to happen. But one of the basic things, of course, is the financing, because if the resources are not in place, then this will not be able to go forward. So that is really critical, and that solidarity across the globe in favor of this mission, which is really in favor of Haiti and the Haitians, is absolutely essential. In terms of based on our experience and what we have learned, again, we think that having a mission like the MSS, which is conceived, as you were saying, Ambassador, as sort of working at the ground level, the lowest bar, you mentioned it, to try to get at the gangs, help the Haitian police to dismantle the gangs, is extremely important. But as was also said, we do need a holistic approach to this, and we cannot wait for those other things also to kick in a much later stage. So as we mobilize resources, absolutely crucial and urgent for the mission, we have to also set the stage for bringing up what I would call peace-building activities to scale. Because without that, if we don't have a holistic solution, this will not achieve what we hope it will achieve, which is stability for the Haitians, the possibility for a return to the democratic order, a return to a possibility of prosperity for all in that country, which is very, very far away at this moment. So we need to have a holistic approach, and I would say even starting with a holistic approach to the security angle. Because if you dismantle these gangs, you apprehend these gang members, you have to be able to process them through the judicial system. You have to be able to put them in penitentiaries that actually are not going to be in subhuman conditions. You have to have the basics of justice and corrections in order to take it to the next immediate step. So even though there's a lot to do, I mean, you cannot skip the steps. These are absolutely critical in terms of a more holistic look at just the security aspect itself. Then there's the bigger picture, which you were also very much speaking to, including helping to address the root causes of conflict and instability in Haiti, which has its roots in the politics, it has its roots in the social, and very much in the economic and the lack of opportunities. So we need really to do that. And I would end with a couple of other points. One is that, and this was also mentioned, hopefully we'll have the MSS on ground as soon as possible, but we already have BNU on the ground, which is the United Nations Special Political Mission, which has a political advisory role, but it also has a role vis-a-vis the police and rule of law and other aspects. We have the United Nations country team with different tools. We have bilateral cooperation. We have different manifestations of international support to Haiti. If that is not well coordinated and the support is not well sequenced, and ideally under a common political strategy, then I think we are going to have issues in terms of really moving this forward the way that it needs to go. And finally, I would pick up also on a point you mentioned, Ambassador, and that is national ownership. And it's too bad we don't have a Haitian with us as well on this panel, but it's absolutely critical that we are doing this together alongside with the Haitians, not for them, but with them and in support of them. So national ownership, so with the Haitian authorities, but also, and I would end on that, as you very well said, with the civil society, with the communities who are bearing the brunt of the violence at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. You again demonstrated how complex it is, how much is needed for this to be successful and not to be another failure, basically. So I heard a lot of the US leadership there. And Phil, how do you see that, and how optimistic are you that this mission is getting off the ground soon in all its complexities? Phil?
Christoph, I will also start. I need to do anything with this? Is it on now?
Yeah.
I'll also start by thanking you for putting it on the agenda, and thank every single person in this room for showing interest in the conversation about how we support Haiti. As was just said, a lot of other global conflicts we can pay attention to, but this one is really important to us. And so I also appreciate the opportunity to underscore why it's important to the United States and to the Vice President in particular, who has spent a lot of time engaging with our Caribbean partners and working on the issues of migration from the region. And Haiti has been a central part of that conversation. I don't need to add a lot to what has already been said about how dire the current situation is. I think people here well know that. Gang violence on the rise, political instability on the rise. Since the assassination of the then president 2.5 years ago, we're now, as of February 7th of this year, don't have a single elected, arguably legitimate politician in the government structures of Haiti. And if we don't collectively do something, what is currently a dire situation could get much, much worse. There's obviously the whole humanitarian piece of that, which in and of itself deserves our support. But then when you get to strategic interests as well, in some ways it's surprising we haven't already seen a mass migration from Haiti, which would not only be of huge interest to the United States for reasons people understand, but for the region, the Dominican Republic, the rest of the Caribbean, at a time when we're already seeing massive migration flows from Venezuela, Ecuador, and elsewhere. So we have a strategic and a moral interest in helping to stabilize this situation in Haiti. And the United States gets that, and that raises the question, like, so what do we do about it? And I would argue that we really have an opportunity now to make a difference. People have mentioned the MSS. We've spent a lot of time on this in Washington, in our administration, thinking about how we can cope with the situation, and have really done all the work we can to find someone willing to lead an effort, because we think an absolutely necessary condition, knowing all of the history of UN and the complications and the skepticism of foreign interventions. Our bottom line is without it, the situation is going to deteriorate with all the consequences I just described. So we're deeply grateful to Kenya for stepping up to lead that effort, and all of the other countries that have so far signed on, and we need more. We just hosted over 100, there were, as you say, like 17 countries involved, but over 100 planners led by the Kenyans, but also other African countries, Caribbean countries at Fort McNair just last week to refine and develop this concept of operations. Now, there's a lot of skepticism, and people can ask all sorts of questions. Why would this succeed when it hasn't succeeded? We know all of that, and that's why we're working so hard on it. But again, I put to this group, and in general, does anybody have a better alternative? And we do believe that this process can start by bringing a modicum of security to tamp down and deter the gangs. That's just a first step to give the opportunity for a political path, because ultimately there needs to be a political settlement or this isn't going to work. And then investing in training what is currently a deeply understaffed and under-resourced Haitian National Police. This requires more work. But we do have a concept in place. Again, grateful to Kenya for taking the lead and others to stepping up, which leads to my last point, which has already been made, but I will reinforce it. We need more international support. Just once again, I appreciate you putting it on the agenda here. We have been talking to our our partners with the most resources, G7 countries and others, because in addition to the troop contributions, this is going to be an expensive endeavor. We have no illusions about that. We will do our part in the United States. In fact, we'll do the biggest part. We will likely put up the most money for this, but we need others. Part of what the Vice President was doing here in some of her meetings is raising with other countries. Why? And we fully get, everybody's saturated. We've got Ukraine, we've got China, we've got all sorts of things to worry about. But for the reasons I think have been very well articulated by this panel, it's also in our moral and strategic interest to do what we can for Haiti.
Can you give us a timeline? What is your thinking there? I mean, you know probably best, where you are in terms of troop providers, in terms of money, in terms of people ready to pick up also this more comprehensive stuff, to look at, development, human rights, etc. What is the timeline?
Yeah, I mean, first point, Christophe, is we're already behind the curve. I mean, we started this process, you'll recall, first of all, we started planning and thinking about it right after the president's assassination. But this current process, the Prime Minister of Haiti wrote a letter to the Security Council now more than a year ago. And we thought it was urgent then. And the hope was to have a country to lead the force and other contributions in place and money behind it by last year. So I would argue we're already a year behind what was needed. But it's never too late. I mentioned the planning process, which I think in the last few weeks alone, and Monica can comment on this, has made good progress. There's more work still to be done. We still need more countries to contribute to it. And then we need the money. There is, again, as was mentioned, a donors effort underway in Brazil as soon as next week. And that's part of this effort. Right now, countries need to step up and fulfill that. Otherwise, I just have to be honest, we can't guarantee that this will be ready in the coming weeks. And then for reasons discussed, it's not clear we have that time on the island of Haiti.
No, I don't know how much headlines we make with this meeting from everything else what is going on at this conference, but maybe we are very happy that we have Brazil represented here. You just mentioned that they are a key player, Brazil, a key country in Latin America, also assuming responsibility. So perhaps briefly, if you introduce yourself and then make a comment with regard to Brazil. I understand you pick up half of the bill, right?
Thank you, Ambassador, and let me echo the panelists' appreciation to MSC for placing Haiti under the spotlight at this very challenging juncture. Brazil remains heavily committed and invested in Haiti's stability, peace, and prosperity. It's no coincidence that Resolution 2699 was approved when Brazil was at the presidency of the Security Council October last year. And we had also led, as many of you know, MINUSTAH, the previous peacekeeping operation, for 13 consecutive years in Haiti, which is, by the way, a first in UN peacekeeping history. But by that time, of course, I don't want to belittle the gravity, the severity of the peace and security situation in Haiti between 2004 and 2017. But the gangs were there, and that was a big problem. But you had an elected president in office, parliament was functioning, and we were able to give our contribution. Of course, the earthquake in 2010 made the situation much worse. But the security situation got better in the course of those 17 years. It's not what we've been seeing now, and we take a heed from Ambassador Singer's a report, as well as our embassy in Port-au-Prince. The reports are disconcerting, and it's not what we're seeing now. So we appreciate Kenya for taking the leadership of this mission. What Brazil has offered so far is to train some of the officers of the Haitian National Police, the PNH in Brazil, to make sure that they go back to Haiti and to give a contribution to the stabilization of the country. The one question, if you allow me, Ambassador, I want to ask the panelists, and especially Ambassador Singer, if he allows me. There has always been a debate within the Security Council whether the situation in Haiti, however serious it was, if it was a true threat to international peace and security, or whether it was an essentially domestic problem in terms of civil unrest, lack of democratic standards, whatever it was. In this case, what strikes me as very worrisome and disconcerting are the potential spillover effects into the Dominican Republic and across the region. So perhaps, Ambassador and the other panelists, if you could share your point of view and your thoughts on how can the situation, the very severe situation in Haiti, could spill beyond Haitian borders. Thank you.
Yeah, Jose, you are best placed.
Before I answer that question, I want to specify something. We need to pacify Haiti before we think about a holistic approach or anything else. I've been involved in the last 10 years with many issues and resolutions with Haiti between both countries. This is when I want to lower the bar, so you understand. It's like baby steps. In order to form a government, that there are institutions, you need to pacify the country. Without pacifying the country, gangs controlling 80, 90% of Haiti, we're not going to get anything done. So once we pacify it, then institutions start working, and we take the holistic approach and the whole thing and the rule of law. Before that, we can't. That's why we have failed most of the time, because we want to do too many things at the same time. And this time, they're worse than ever, even worse than after the earthquake. So that's why I want to get everybody on board how important it is to have a low bar of success. Every human right possible is being violated today. Let's not put pressure on the troops that are coming to not violate human rights, because what is happening is now it's a disaster. Okay? It can't be worse than it is right now. I just want to. As far as your question, while I was in the council, I learned how terrorism is created, and I saw all the conflicts in different places in the Sahel and other places. In Haiti today exists many of the tools, many of the symptoms of how terrorism is created. Human beings are being terrorized. That's terrorism. The thing is, there's going to be a spillover, because what happens? If the multinational mission does not come in and pacify the country, these gangs, the government should fall, and these gangs are going to infight between themselves, and this is going to spill over the region. You know, these guys get all the guns they need, high-power caliber guns, and they keep getting them. That's not being stopped. It's hard to stop it. It's not an easy task. It's challenging to us, the Dominican Republic, where guns are prohibited to be owned in the last 7 years, and they still sometimes tell us that it comes from the DR, which I doubt. But the thing is, these symptoms can overspill in other areas of the region, the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, of course. We're very worried with the situation. We're trying to help as much as possible. We want to keep the subject alive. But the symptoms are there for there to be international terrorism. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but all the symptoms are there and becoming a threat to security.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I mean, with regard to how peacekeeping troops act or whatever, respect for human rights has to be there. And I know that's what you wanted to say, Tirana. So
I do. I agree. 100%.
I just wanted to preempt that. So who would like to ask another? Yes, please. And identify yourself, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Jenna Russo. I'm from the International Peace Institute in New York, where we've been following the Haiti file closely and very happy to see it discussed today. I was wondering also, maybe Mr. Gordon, if you could come in a bit also on how you see the sequencing around the political process with the intervention of the MSS. I know around the time that the council was debating the resolution, there was some concern that sending in an intervention could simply embolden a regime that is seen as illegitimate by most of the country. So how do you achieve the minimum level of security that I think you're talking about, Ambassador, but then also ensuring that the political process must move forward as a sign of credibility? And then maybe also just to bring up again the point about community engagement. I think this is something that we talk about a lot in UN peacekeeping and being people-centered, and it's not something that is often done well in peace operations settings. But in this particular case, where you have gangs that are so embedded within communities, it's absolutely essential to do that. What measures are being put in place to ensure that community engagement is happening at a real level, in particular when you have an international force where there is a language barrier and maybe some of that becomes more difficult? Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. It's a really important question that we are not unaware of. I would reinforce what Ambassador Singer said. First things first. The force needs to go in and provide a modicum of stability. What I'm getting at is your point about the political process is absolutely essential, and we're well aware of it. first things first, if gangs are taking over the country and the government, legitimate or not, and the police, legitimate or not, lose control, then there's not going to be a political process. So even if you agree, as we do, that the ultimate goal here needs to be political legitimacy and a political process, the force remains not a sufficient but a necessary condition. So that's what we're trying to do in the first phase of this, just get somebody in there to stop the sexual violence and the other sorts of violence and the gangs from running wild. Once that is done, you can get started on a political process. You can start training and improving the institutions that do exist. What it must not be, and once again, like we are aware of this, it can't be the Praetorian Guard for the current leadership. And I know that's what some people in Haiti are worried about, and that's why I'm stressing we get it. I think our friends in Kenya who will be leading the mission get it as well. So I don't want anyone to think that we think the answer in Haiti is we send in a force and there you go, we prop up the government and we move on to the next thing. But it's a staged process. We haven't even managed the first stage yet. So and that's hard enough, and that's why I'm here talking about the need for support and troop donations and financial support. And then no illusions. Then we have a massive political piece of work, and we'll get started on that as part of the next phase.
Yeah, I mean, this would be very difficult because they have to change basically the constitution, which is not a constitution that you can govern a country with. And so we don't have much time left. Who would like to ask a question, make a comment?
Can I add something in the meantime?
Of course.
Just in response to the last question.
Yes.
First of all, certainly would underscore that having the political process go forward is extremely important. Not easy. We know CARICOM is involved. BNU is also trying to play its role. Others. There's the Haitian diaspora that could be also helpful in that regard. It seems to be stuck right now, but that's an absolute imperative. And that also links up to this issue of, is this a domestic problem, or could this be, is it a threat to international peace and security? Well, when you have a political vacuum, you have an absence of the state in much of the country, you don't have effective rule of law. That breeds, it's a breeding ground for all kinds of illicit activity, which easily can be exported elsewhere. So all kinds of illicit trafficking, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, and so forth. So it's not just a domestic issue. It really goes much beyond. The potential to go much beyond in a very negative way is absolutely there. In terms of community engagement, couldn't be more in agreement with that. In fact, through our work through the Secretary General's Peacebuilding Fund at the UN, we do support quite a bit of community engagement in Port-au-Prince, but also elsewhere. And some of the areas that we're working on is community violence reduction, which is absolutely critical. Working with youth and empowering them, not only giving them alternatives to gang activity or gang membership, with employment and so forth, but also leadership skills and giving them a voice so that they can become part of the political discourse and the political process, and also harnessing and empowering the voices and the leadership of women who often are able to go in and help solve local level conflicts or prevent conflicts at a local level, community level, from breaking out. So community engagement critical. We don't have to wait for the MSS for that, but it will make it much easier because you also need safe spaces for people in order for that type of activity to really take hold and to bring it to scale.
One thing you also have to think about in the mission is, since there is not a government really functioning, you have lots of NGOs engaged, and the NGOs have kind of their own community there, and this is something to look at. Tirana, you have the final word.
Thank you. The one thing I would encourage us to think about is to not frame it as all or nothing when we think about the holistic response. Maybe it's about sequencing. But, we are here lamenting the fact that we don't have troops on the ground, that there have been long delays. Within this holistic response, there's plenty of things we can do to lay the groundwork to ensure that once we have brought stability, that there are these humane detention facilities, for example, prisons, etc., that you can put the arrested people, that there is due process so that you don't end up with prisons which actually become breeding grounds for extremist violence. And the other thing I would say is if we really want this to succeed, what I would ask is that, yes, we're looking for financing, we're looking for governments to step up and support this mission, but the thing that is falling down all over the world is stamina. So it is not about kicking in right now at the beginning of the process. It's about making sure that we have long-term financial commitments, because this is a very long road.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I have a 20-second intervention. 10. Okay. Kimberly, yes.
Hi, Kimberly Marteau Emerson. Human Rights Watch, great job, Tirana. No, great job, everybody else, too. Actually, thank you so much. I also feel like in this process, and you probably all have been looking, is identifying the points of light. Are there any leaders there? Are there any individuals who you feel like you can identify and support as you begin this long road that needs a lot of stamina?
Yeah, when you look at the government, a lot of the dimension of corruption there, and nobody really ready to assume responsibility. I think that's a very good question. Listen, thank you very much for this. This was a spotlight on Haiti. We brought it on the agenda of the Munich Security Conference. First step. Second step is all of those who have something dealing with this, spread the message how urgent it is, stamina, how complex it is, but we need support for it. So maybe we can meet here again in a year and see if this works under one condition, Phil, that you bring your vice president, but not have this standstill in the whole city when she moves back and forth. Okay, this phrase. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming here.
Thank you.